Lindsay here with Pilates On Demand. Today we are hitting a mobility routine that is going to help with the flexibility of the back of your legs and the front of your hips in order to eventually get into the splits. Now, you do not need to be able to have very flexible hamstrings or be able to do the splits in order to do this routine. This is to help you get more flexible there, and maybe one day in the future you can try to do a split. We're gonna progress this routine, we're gonna warm up, it's dynamic, so it's more interesting than just holding a longer stretch. I know sometimes people have a hard time just like sitting in a stretch for 10 minutes, so that is not this kind of routine. We're gonna be moving through everything. I would suggest to have a set of blocks. If you don't have blocks, you can use books, a thicker book like a dictionary. I'm also gonna demo some stuff with a bench, which would be a little bit more higher up from the ground. So if you're tighter, I would say bench, couch, chair will be your best friend. And otherwise, we're gonna get into it. Click that subscribe button below, like, share with your friends, and hit me with a comment at the end. So grab your equipment. So I'm gonna start with the blocks. Now, like I said, if the back of your legs are really tight, let's go higher up. So yes, we can bring the blocks up higher as well, so you can stack them or stack up some books, edge of the couch. That's where we're gonna start. I'm gonna have my feet a little bit wider than my hips. Now, this might be new for you when working hamstrings. Oftentimes I see people do something like that. So that's actually not helpful whatsoever. So let's completely wipe the slate clean, and we're gonna rewire our muscles in our mind. So when working the hamstrings, the first thing I want you to target is getting your back really straight. So we're a little wider than the hips. I'm going to be in a mini squat. Now when I do that, I'm moving my tailbone back. So I'm breaking at the hips basically, and then I'll place my hands on the blocks. Now from here, I'm going to keep my knees bent the whole time and reach my chest forward and my tailbone back. So this could be helpful to have a mirror, or maybe you video yourself, and at the end you can kind of check like, okay, how straight really was my back? That's gonna be your key whether or not you go further down. So if you're already kind of scooping up through the ribs here, then this is where you're gonna stay, and you're going to keep working that chest through the arms and that low back reaching behind you. If you want to progress, knees stay bent and start to reach the chest towards the ground. So even though I'm getting lower, I'm still in that flat back position, and I haven't started to feel my ribs pull up into the back of my shirt. I'm continuing to lengthen the ribs away from those hip creases. My shoulders are off my neck, and I can lean into those blocks. Now I will say I'm pretty flexible, and I already feel a huge stretch here. So it's a really big indicator that your hands do not need to touch the floor, and that your legs do not need to be super straight in order to access those hamstrings. If you're ready for the next level, you could unstack the blocks or lower whatever props you're on. Continue to draw your chest forward, and then maybe your belly comes closer to your thighs. But the minute you start to feel your back round into a C shape, that's where you're going to go, okay, this is where I pause and I work. Hip creases up, so booty to the ceiling, and chest moving down towards the floor. Holy moly, the back of my legs are working here. So there is a bit of abdominal work here. I'm definitely drawing my abs in, pulling my ribs together. But when you draw your ribs and your abs in, that isn't by changing the shape of your back like this. It's more so contracting the belly, pulling it up, like sucking it in without changing any shape in your back. Okay, if this bothers your neck at all, you can completely just let that head hang, that's fine. Shoulders lift up off of the back of the neck. And you continue to shift weight into the hands, and we lift up through that low back. So we're going for that straight line in the spine. Good, and then draw your belly in, roll it all the way up, and come up to standing. So now we're gonna dynamically work that same move. So just take your hands and put them on your hips. Put a bend in the knees, like we had earlier. We're gonna break at the hips, so that's where we're moving from. Send your hips back and come forward into a flat back, so your chest lines up with your hips. And then you're gonna stand up without straightening your knees, so move from the hip joint rather than the knee joint. Okay, so it's like I'm cutting my body in half. I'm moving right here where my legs attach to my hips, and then I'm gonna come right back up. Now, if you're not able to get that shoulder to hip alignment, that's totally fine. I just want you to lean forward any point that you're able to keep your back flat and you don't feel this. Like I said, a good time to have a mirror next to you, because sometimes it's really hard to tell what is happening in your back. And then you're gonna draw it up. Okay, let's do 2 more of those. Inhale, hinge forward. I'm like already sweating. I think it's the lights and that it's like 110 outside and I have to turn the AC off to film this. But hey, it's actually good to be warm when you are stretching, so not a bad thing. Okay, so if that's really intense, stick with that. I'm gonna advance this by showing this in a split stance. So that it's like a single leg deadlift, but our focus is really getting into the flexibility component of it rather than adding weight and getting into the strength component. So both knees are bent, but I'm light in the right foot. Let's have that right heel up. Put most of the weight into the left foot, and we're gonna hinge right at the hips. So you can even wedge your hands right at your hips. That's where you wanna feel the bend. You don't wanna feel a bend at your ribs. So pull the ribs forward. Reach your butt back and stand up. Okay, we're gonna do 2 more on this leg. Take a big breath in, find length in the back body, and a deep breath out. Personally, I think it's more beneficial to move dynamically in stretches first and get the body warm, and then do those seated folds. We're gonna switch, so stand onto the other foot, pop the left heel up, so we're light in the toes. Shift the weight into that right foot. Put a bend in your knee, and then move from the pelvis. Okay, so the pelvis articulates down, that low back moves to the floor, and then the low back moves to the back of the room. Okay, you can think of there being a zipper in the front and back of your hips. So there's a zipper in the front of the body drawing up and in the lower back moving down. So you feel this movement in your pelvis. That's what's moving us into this stretch. Last one. Woo! And then we draw it on up. Okay, so we're gonna use the yoga blocks for the next one. Lay them flat down, side by side, horizontal. If you don't have this, you can do the toes up the wall. So we're going to face those blocks and place the left toes up the ball and the heel on the floor. Now make sure you're getting that heel down. If it's lifted in space, put something underneath it so it can push into the floor. And we're gonna reach those hips back, put a little bend in the knees, and we're gonna lean forward into it. Whoa, targeting the back of the leg. Okay, reach your chest forward, hips back. If this is a lot on your low back, you can grab onto the bench or a block to help support you here. Okay, it does require a lot of core and back strength to just hold this position, no doubt. Good, and now use your abs and lift yourself back up. Okay, let's do the other side. So we've got the right toes up the block. I'm gonna face the same direction so you can see what's going on in my supporting leg. Okay, I'm gonna put a little bend in the knees, make sure that right heel is into the floor, and then move your hips back and find that flat spine. Okay, this is targeting a little bit more of your calf and your Achilles. Good, draw the top of your abdominal wall forward and the bottom of your abdominal wall backwards. Maybe you grab a block, a chair, a bench, and that is your support. Okay, before we come up, exhale your belly button to your spine, and then slowly tailbone towards that bottom heel, we stand up. Good work, guys, literally sweating. Okay, so let's take it down to the ground, and we're going to do a lunge to a half split. Okay, so this is dynamic and flowing. Let's put one block in each hand, bring that left leg straight through, and place the blocks underneath your shoulders. Okay, check your back foot. I want your back foot, the right foot, lining up with the right knee. So knee and shin line up. Just like we practiced before, instead of leaning into the blocks and hunching over, I want you to lift up. So your left hip crease is moving down to the floor. Now we're gonna grab the blocks, Bend the left knee and shift forward into a lunge. Your back knee needs to point directly down and not be turned out. This is because the back leg of our split. So we want that proper form. Okay, walk the blocks to you, straighten the left leg, and lift. Left hip down, chest up. Then grab the blocks, shift forward, and lunge. You got it, let's do 2 more. Walk it back. We find the split. If you're feeling looser, you can be a little bit more hinged forward. Just make sure we don't round. I'm gonna say that the whole class. Bend the left knee, shift it forward. Okay, last one. Walk it back. Stretch the chest towards the toes. And walk it forward. Okay, so now you're going to find that half split. Blocks underneath the shoulders, and we're doing a windshield wiper action in this left leg. Now I want to see the movement come from your thigh. Turn out, turn in. I don't want to see your foot just move. So the movement is from your hip joint, the whole leg turns in and turns out, rather than from the ankle. Okay, so I'm gonna angle a little bit to you so you can see this better from the front. So your left leg is straight forward. We're dropping that left hip crease down, and then we're turning the whole leg in and out. In and out. Good, so keep that going a couple more times. And you're still working that flat spine. So your booty is reaching back behind you. How are we feeling, guys? Woo! Okay, last 2. I definitely feel it on the turn out. Woo. Last 1. Okay, let's step that leg in. We're gonna go through that series with the right leg forward. So we've got the right leg, heel is directly in line with your hip, your toes, your knee, the top of the thigh point up, and the blocks underneath the shoulders. Now I need to pull my right hip back a little bit, and I'm checking that my left foot is in line with my left knee and not something funky like that. Okay, now push against the blocks and lift. Lengthen the abdominal wall. And then we're gonna shift forward, finding that lunge. Walk the blocks with you, and let's take a peek at the back knee. It should be turning down towards the floor. Good, and then push off the blocks and the right foot, flex the toes, lift the navel, flat back. Then walk it forward, and we find our lunge. Okay, I'm gonna go 2 more times. So when we go right here into this half split, this is working the front leg in our split. And when we shift forward into the lunge, this is working the back leg in the split. It looks just like it would, it's the same exact shape, right, if it was in a split. Okay, so let's hold our half splits right here, and we're windshield wipering the leg. Turning it in and out, and I'm taking a peek at my alignment. So I'm making sure that right hip keeps dropping. So you don't want to feel your right hip lifting up the right side of your body. You want to make sure it's dropping down, and there's a good viewpoint here. Hip bone to hip bone should make one line across. Okay, we're gonna do a couple more here. Okay, last 2. And 1 more. Good work. Okay, so step it in. So now we're going to be up with the back knee. So left foot forward, frame the left foot with the blocks, tuck your right toes and lift your right knee up behind you. Now that knee is going to be lifted the whole time. Straighten the left leg and drop the right heel down, and then bend the left knee and shift forward. Okay, when I straighten my left leg, I'm gonna pull my chest forward and reach my tush back. But I'm gonna take a little peek, make sure my hips are squared. And then I'm gonna bend back into the lunge, drive your right heel back, let the hips drop, but not the knee bend. Keep that knee nice and straight. So shift it back, lengthen the spine, then come into a lunge. Okay, you're gonna do 2 more. I'm gonna show you this with the bench if you need to be up higher. So if you're with the bench, you're up higher. Your left toes are underneath the bench, your right toes are back behind you, you lunge, and then you lengthen. If you need more than that, put books or blocks on, lunge, and lengthen. So wherever you need to be so that you're not like this in your back, but your spine is nice and straight. Good, okay. Everybody's gonna step it back in, and we're gonna switch sides over to the right. So just so you have a good visual, if your back's looking a little wonky, that's where you're gonna take it. So step that left foot back and that right foot forward. Blocks on either side of the right leg, tuck the left toes, lift the left knee up. So my left thigh is engaged. As you take an inhale, pull the right hip back and move your chest forward. And as you take an exhale, shift back into it. And you guys know your option. Now I'll give you a good visual of that. You can use so many things. Be creative. Couch, bench, chair. It doesn't have to be fitness specific. You literally should see what I turn my house into as far as like using it as a workout prop. Like everything becomes a workout prop in my house. Last two. Good, one more. Last one. We're getting into it, guys. We're close to the grand finale. And step it all the way down. Okay, we're gonna do a little hip flexor-y stretch right here. So make a diamond with your legs, toes together, knees apart. Sit back onto your heels, place your left hand behind you. You're gonna tuck your hips and press them forward as you reach your right arm back. Then you're gonna lower your hips and switch. Right arm behind you, press the hips forward. Okay, if that's intense in the low back, grab your blocks, pop them up nice and high so that you have more space for that low back. And remember not to dump down, so we're still lifting up. Good, so let's do 3 more. Opening up the front of the hips. Nice, last 2. Good, final one. Last one. And bring it on down. Okay, so if you have the blocks, we are going into some supported splits and lunges. We're starting with the lunge. You're gonna stack 2 flat blocks and place them horizontal to the left side of the mat. I'm gonna show you on the blocks and then I'll show you on your bench or chair or couch, but I think you're gonna need a bench or chair for this. So we're going to step the left leg over and then take a seat on the block with the left hip. Your left knee stacks over your ankle and you're gonna turn your right knee straight down. Tuck the pelvis forward and lift the chest up. This should give you a good stretch in the front of the right hip. Okay, this is a back leg in our splits. Draw the knees inward, use the inner thighs here. So you're gonna hold this for a couple moments. I'm gonna demo it with the bench. And like I said, I'm pretty flexible and I feel a big stretch either way. So I really think it's correct positioning more than being lower or higher up. So if you were not able to sit down, you're gonna lunge here on the bench. Check that your left foot and knee line up. I'm squaring my hips, so I need to turn my back knee in and press my right hip into the bench. And then remember the zipper action. So we have a zipper in our low back pulling down and a zipper in the front of our body pulling up. Okay, whoa. Once I did that, I have a huge stretch in the back leg. You can put the hands here. If you need blocks, you can put them underneath the hands and we're gonna lift. So don't be afraid to use props. That is something I've certainly learned in my fitness journey, especially like as far as flexibility with yoga. I used to think, oh, it's not advanced if I have to use blocks. Oh man, I've learned otherwise. The more I utilize the props, the better alignment I have, and definitely I see much bigger results as far as getting more flexible. Okay guys, so step it off. I'm gonna stick with the bench since it's here, but you know if you have those blocks, slide them over to the right. Step your right leg over the blocks or the bench. And then stack your right knee over your ankle. Left leg is back behind you. Now, we wanna make sure the left knee isn't turning out. So your heel, the back of the knee, and your sits bone should all line up. And by should, I mean to the best of your ability. And then we've learned that that tucking action is really what starts to get us into the hip flexor. So I have to lift my abdomen, like I'm pulling up my pants and zipping them up tight. And then there's that zipper in the low back, reaching my glutes to the floor. Okay, then I like to put my hands on blocks or the bench to help kind of manipulate my pelvis. So from here, I can feel that my left hip needs to draw further forward, my right hip needs to draw further back, so I'm using my arm strength to help me with those actions. And also push down. You want to lift the spine up tall. Good, take a couple breaths here. How we doing? We're coming into our splits next. Good, okay, and then relax that down. So since I have the bench, I'm gonna demo with the bench first, and then I will demo with the blocks. Now, even if you're really flexible, ideally you start higher and then you move lower in the same session, right? Give things time to open up. You're gonna be amazed how much deeper you get versus like forcing something. So we're on our higher bench or blocks, and if you're still on the blocks, you have them set up the same way, you've just moved them back to the left. Okay, so we pretty much look like we're doing the lunge again. So step the left leg over the blocks or whatever prop you're working with. Your back toes are tucked. Now this is a little high for me, so my front leg is gonna be lifted off the floor. But if you were lower, your front leg would be on the ground. So you're basically just trying to straighten both of your legs, but I want you to square those hips. So make sure when you did that, you haven't opened your pelvis up to the right. So we worked that right leg. Tuck the right toes, draw the right hip forward, tuck the abdomen, and then maybe you can straighten the leg. Okay, feel free to use the bench, but I want you to work the actions. Okay, and try to drive that back heel back in space. This is gonna be a lot easier. So tuck the toes and drive the heel back. I want you to work for it. Nice. Okay, we're gonna release, so we're going to the other side now. We're taking this to the right side. We're gonna do it one more time again after this, each side. So sit on the bench, right hip down. Okay, I always look back at myself, because you know, like what we think's happening in our body versus like when we look at it is usually different. Yeah, so, and sometimes I manually adjust. I'm gonna take my left hand to my left inner thigh and pull it up towards the ceiling. Roll that left hip forward, tuck the abdomen. Okay, and then maybe I start to straighten out through my right leg. Good, I'm pressing my lower back towards the floor, and I'm pulling my abdomen up. Okay, now let's strengthen this left quad. So this leg is active, it's not resting. Good, and then I'm drawing upwards. Use that core strength. Woo! Splits. Good work, guys. Okay, so we're going to do it one more time. If this was like plenty being higher up, stick with it. So we're gonna add something. I'm just gonna show it with the blocks now, or the books, or maybe you're using a pillow. Like I said, don't be afraid to be super creative. It does not have to be specifically a yoga prop to be useful for yoga and flexibility. Okay, so we've got 2 flat blocks. They're slid over to the left. You can always go 1 if you are nailing the form. Only if you're nailing the form, don't rush it. Okay, so we're gonna step the left leg over. I'm gonna sit on the blocks with my left hip. Walk the right leg back, knee down. This time we will untuck the toes, and then walk the left hip forward. Now before I do anything, I wanna see that my right and left bony parts right here of the hips make a line, and that my right hip isn't back behind my left hip, it's coming forward. Okay, if you've got that, then maybe you go down if you're not feeling enough stretch here. Maybe you add the forward bend. You can also do this forward bend up on the bench. But let's stick with what we learned. We've got the left hip crease moving back and our sternum moving forward. Let's use that core strength. Push against the ground, pull up through the abdominal wall. Oh my gosh, is that a stretch or what? Ooh, sweat in the eye. Okay, and then walk it forward, containing that length. Maintaining, maybe not containing. And you can maybe drop the head, but even when I come down into a fold, I'm resisting the spine contracting, I'm lengthening, I keep pulling my sternum forward. Good work, guys. Okay, walk it in and come off the blocks. So let's take that on the right side. So, like I said, you could be on the bench, the blocks, whatever props are suitable for you. Step the right leg over, sit on the blocks with the right hip, left leg is long. Gotta take that into almost like what feels like internally rotating the leg. Take a peek at it, good. I'm talking to myself now. And then walk the right leg forward. Okay, so let's adjust the pelvis manually with our hands if we need. We've got that zippering action in the front of the pelvis and in the back of the pelvis. Okay, maybe you stay right here. You know, and one side can be a lot different than the other. So if you need to be higher up on your right split versus your left split, just honor that. Like, it's okay. It doesn't have to match the other leg. And also sometimes I see, like, when you finish the stretch on one side, you're much deeper than when you started. So just remember, when you start the stretch on the next leg, you don't always already need to be forward folding, right? Give it time. Okay, so now it's that time. So we're gonna come forward, fingertips under the shoulders, and you're lifting. Nice. Straighten that front knee, flex the foot. Even if you're a dancer, I want you to flex those feet. That's how we're gonna get more into the back of the leg. Lift your chest forward, maybe walk the hands further forward, and then we're gonna start to fold. Good, belly, ribs, chest, little drop of the head. Relax the shoulders. Good, and then we're going to walk it up and step off the blocks. Wow, guys. Well, I hope that this was insightful and helpful for you, and I guarantee you, I promise, if you follow these cues and correct alignment and do this, I'd say like 3 times a week, you will definitely see results. Even if it's like brand new and you start doing once a week, if you usually don't stretch, you're gonna see results. But if you're wanting to get your splits soon, I'm telling you, try it out and let me know how it works for you. So this is my channel, Pilates On Demand. I would really appreciate if you hit subscribe below. It's completely free. It just supports me and allows me to make more content for you guys, AKA these videos that I love making. So I hope you have a fabulous day, and I look forward to stretching it out or working it out with you on the next class. Bye, guys.